My thanks to the member for his very fine speech in opposition. We now move on to our final round of paper speakers. Closing for the proposition this evening, we are joined by Giannina Braschi. Giannina is a poet, novelist, dramatist, and scholar known for her mixed genre literature and political philosophy. Her celebrated works include the first ever Spanglish novel, Yo-Yo Boing, and the geopolitical tragic comedy, United States of Banana. She was named Woman of the Year 2025 by former President of Ecuador, Rosalia Ortega, of the Global Women's Foundation. You have the ears of the House.
This House would not judge yesterday's art by today's politics, but today's politics is in no position to judge anything. It has no head. It walks like a chicken with its head cut off. To the past, to make America great again, make the West great again, make the Soviet Union great again. Again is the problem. It's the agenda of a dead body coming back to life. Whenever you have the past, what is dead, presenting itself as an agenda to fix the present moment by taking us back to the dead, you have contagion, pest, collusion, pollution, delusion, not illusion. Illusion is hope. Delusion is a past illusion presenting itself as hope. Hope is something that has not happened yet. But when it happens and the happening has already died and been buried, and other present moments have come forward and made us live other present moments, and a dead body, a dead moment comes back, presenting itself as if it were alive and it is dead, that is not an illusion. That is a delusion. Today's motion puts art in the past and in a passive position and puts politics in the present and in the power position, but looking backwards, just like today's politics is looking backwards. Judging yesterday's art by the moral standards of today's politics delays progress by making art walk backwards like a crab to the past, taking away its power to create, its urgency to feel inspired, and to transform new noises into new values, and out of those new noises and new values, new genres. Don't judge yesterday's art by the moral standards of today's politics. Judge today's politics by the moral standards of today's politics. Genocide, mass incarceration, mass deportation, oligarchy, pollution, collusion, delusion are the moral standards of today's politics. Art is about truth and beauty, and politics compromises truth for power. But when it comes to truth and beauty, negotiations by warmongers count for nothing. What counts are dialogues of love. We all think one way or another that we're wasting our talents and that we're made to wait because money, the state of affairs of the economy, is always dire, in a critical stage, in a state of emergency, and it puts all the expectations of poets, philosophers, lovers in a lesser stage, less urgent. But when you take away the urgency to create, it loses its noise and its value, and it fades away. In this society we're living in, delay is the measurement of advancement. Delay the advancement of arts and sciences. Today's motion delays the advancement of arts and sciences because it presupposes that arts and sciences should be under the inspection and supervision of today's politics, as if arts and sciences were working for the empowerment of politics, when in reality they don't work for politics at all. They work for the enhancement of life. They are in servitude of the provocation of life. Art is not created to fit the moral standards of today's politics, but rather to destroy them, to create new values, new noises, new genres. And this does not mean that we're not political beings. We're political beings. We're public figures. But we're not going to allow the past. We're not going to allow today's moral standards to take over our standards of expectation. We have stood under the boot of politics for too long, allowing our standards of living to chop up our creativity into little itty-bitty pieces of the ones we are. And now it wants to chop off pieces of the ones we were, devaluing the value of creativity. The 20th century was a century of criticism. The critic was ahead of the artist. Their theories were more creative than the art, and the artist followed the critic. It was a century of the man without qualities. But the 21st is one where creation will rise above the criticism of critics. We will create new values, new noises, new genres. A new genre is not a movement or a generation dated, but a shift in thinking that has a structure, a location, a territory. That territory in Aeschylus was the Oresteia, where a paradigm shift happened when the Furies agreed to transform their fury into blessings. The swords and the sorcerers are the same. The power is there in the no of Furies and in the yes of blessers, in the no of their curses and in the yes of their blessings. To create a new territory where paradigm shifts happen, you have to create a new prototype that can be reproduced for generations to come. You don't need the baggage of history and the pestilence of culture to create the transition. You need a partera to hum the enchanted words and a witch or furies to change their curses to blessings, the knots into nests. And there you will have the shift in a nest full of eggs. You can say the language is outmoded, but the invention works because the shift happened in society and the new genre captured what happened and how it changed. It captured the change in the prototype it invented, and it figured out how the change worked, and it changed with the work, what works. That is not the work, but the pleasure involved. It's not about the years spent in making the prototype, but the passion that produced the change. The prototype is achieved as a phenomenon that appears, makes a turn, and changes the way of making things. It changes the thinkings. It inserts in the thinkings not a method, but a pattern with many structures, many ways of making the prototype in different locations in time, sometimes with ineptitude, other times waking late at night, not working at all, and not always changing shifts, but shifting always the paradigms of time. As time has said once and again, things happen in time, and the repetition of this lie has been perpetuated by the storytellers of fiction, but things don't always happen in time. And when they have a method, the method is broken. And there's a space where the things broken that find no method find a structure, not of analysis, nor of theories, no theories allowed, because they are all destroyed by the method they use in their analysis. What is needed is to start creating in the void where nothing works. What is needed is to find that void that analysts try to fill with theories so that we don't find the gap. But it is necessary to be acquainted with that void and to not fear that space where nothing works the way it used to, because that is the place where possibilities take place. To make the shift, we must inhabit the void and confront the terror that happens in that void where nothing works, where music starts, where pleasure invites the muses to come along to inspire the void to shift its course to the space where new shifts can be attained. When you create a genre, which is not a movement because it has no past, and if it has a past is pregnant with a future bigger than its past. Its past is its post-creation, only a point of departure. It creates modes of thinkings. A genre has in itself movements, generations, and after all these concepts expire in time, the genre that is an artifact, that is a fact made shift, it doesn't belong to a date, it is not dated. It includes all the expirations that expire in its belly, and it is still pregnant with new beginnings. We don't need storytellers. We need soothsayers. I never said I'm a storyteller. I said I'm a soothsayer. I say the sooth. The truth is that art has always been abused by politics. Politics is a bully, and the screams of politics are so loud that they don't allow art to think without being shattered by the constant harassment of politics telling it money matters above anything you do. You depend on my economy. We were not made for this world where we can only exist in meetings where prejudice is dressed in suits and ties of objectivity. In that prejudice disguised as objective, you see the negation of poetry. Poetry has its own time that is not FaceTime or Instagram or Twitter, but the time of timeless and untimely matters. Untimely meditations arrive unexpectedly out of time, taking their time, and when no one is expecting this untimely time, untimeliness takes a philosophical concept and makes it an event, a work of art, or an act of terror. Untimely is when you grasp in an instant the wisdom of generations before and after. A month doesn't produce what a day can give, and a nanosecond can be more productive than all the technology of an hour. You bullies of poetry, you disguise as objective all your prejudice behind a cover-up of impartiality. Even though you're partial, prejudice, and racist, you make impartial a prejudice against art that has existed ever since Socrates threw the poet out of the Republic, and politics killed him too. And since then, you can see the prejudice disguised as objective, the subjectivity of the prejudice made objective, made impartial, made general, made command, made motion. This House would not judge yesterday's art by today's politics. Thank you.